Good evening. Any time now, the Supreme Court is going to be beginning crucial proceedings to decide whether the Maharashtra governor's order to allow a floor test on the floor of the State Assembly is legal or not. This is based on an appeal from Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, who has argued that the governor's order is illegal since 16 rebel MLAs are yet to respond on their possible disqualification from the Assembly. So let's put it simply, Uddhav Thackeray does not want a floor test right now. He says you cannot have a floor test till it is decided whether the rebel MLAs of the Shiv Sena, who you see on board these buses now, are disqualified or not. The rebels you see here, who are now on their way to Goa, finally from Guwahati, say possible disqualification has nothing to do with proving the majority. Now, the BJP in all of this has been relatively silent, but they are quite clearly watching proceedings very closely. The BJP does want to form the government in the state. They approached the governor yesterday and said that a floor test was required since the ruling alliance had lost its majority. Now, if you are wondering why these MLAs are going to Goa, we haven't been offered very much of a reason other than that Goa is closer to Maharashtra than Assam is. That's not a very convincing answer, but they are on their way now to Goa. Hotels have been booked over there, and it's a BJP ruled state is Goa, and therefore if they need to stay over there in Goa for a longer period of time in hotels, they would actually do that. And then once that floor test does take place, it's a question of when really. They would, at some stage, it's almost inevitable, be a floor test. Then they would perhaps be present for that. It could be as early as tomorrow. Arvind Gunashekara joins us for the very latest from the Supreme Court. Has that crucial hearing begun, Arvind?
Vishnu, the hearing in the Supreme Court on the plea by Shiv Sena, Uddhav Thackeray faction is yet to begin. So like you mentioned, the fate of Uddhav Thackeray government will be decided in this particular hearing. Though there is a floor test, but the outcome of this particular hearing will decide whether Uddhav Thackeray government will survive in Maharashtra or not. If the Supreme Court clears the deck for the floor test, then with the numbers stacked against Uddhav Thackeray, it's certain that Uddhav Thackeray will be losing the government. And if at all, if the Supreme Court extends the time period for the floor test, like how they have extended the disqualification proceedings, then it's a ray of life for Uddhav Thackeray faction, wherein they can again reach out to the rebel MLAs, wherein they can try to get over or win over MLAs. So that's something. So all the fate of Uddhav Thackeray government will be decided based on this particular Supreme Court hearing. So Uddhav Thackeray faction, the chief whip, that is Sunil Prabhu, has filed this application or petition before the Supreme Court challenging the governor's direction for the floor test, wherein the governor has asked Uddhav Thackeray to prove his majority on the floor of the house tomorrow. In fact, governor has written to not just to the chief minister, but he has also written to the Maharashtra Legislative Assembly Speaker, wherein summoning the house, he has asked the Assembly Speaker to make all the arrangements for the floor test, and he has also made it very clear that the floor test should be concluded tomorrow. The proceedings should start at 11 a.m. and presumably and in all possibility the proceedings should conclude by 5 p.m. tomorrow. So whether the floor test will happen tomorrow or not, that will be decided in today's hearing.
You know, Arvind, as you were speaking, we were seeing some very interesting visuals, and I'm wondering if we can see those again. Not of these MLAs leaving on a bus from Guwahati to Goa, but of Uddhav Thackeray actually arriving for a crucial cabinet meeting. Now, that cabinet meeting is all going to be about waiting on to see what takes place in the Supreme Court. In just a little while from now, the Supreme Court could be passing orders. We don't know one way or the other what the Supreme Court is going to decide. They may actually decide not to pass any order. They may actually say come back for more hearings later on, and this could be quite protracted. But that cabinet meeting, and let's, if we can just have those shots of Uddhav Thackeray once again about to attend that cabinet meeting. Not these shots, this is something else. If we can have the other shots, then that actually tells a very interesting story of what's actually going to be taking place. There we have it, the shots I was actually talking about, the visuals. My colleague Saurabh Gupta joins us now. So the make or break moment for Uddhav Thackeray now. Saurabh, the images we see are of him stepping in for a cabinet meeting. I don't think there would be any governance issues. Perhaps they'd all be waiting to hear from what happens in the Supreme Court.
That's right. You know, this is going to be more about what happens in the Supreme Court because, of course, the government's survival in many ways depends on what happens in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is, of course, hearing a petition where the Maharashtra government, the Shiv Sena actually, has moved saying that the floor test should happen upon the final conclusion of the disqualification plea that has been challenged, this disqualification move that has been challenged in the Supreme Court by the rebel MLAs. Now, there are also other important things in the cabinet, and this is to do with the political messaging. For example, the name change of Aurangabad to Sambhajinagar. And that is one of the things that has been a long-stated agenda of the Shiv Sena, which many believed the moment it came into government would happen. So obviously, if that happens, then, the attacks on Uddhav Thackeray, for apparently moving away from Hindutva would be blunted to a considerable extent. So that's what you will see perhaps opening discussed. But yes, this cabinet meeting is more of how to tackle things from here on, how to tackle the floor test and what will we do at the floor test, whether if the Supreme Court doesn't grant any relief, the government should go in for a floor test or not, because the numbers seem stacked in favor of, the rebels. So that's
Right.
one thing that is right.
All right, sort of as we talk about this, the images that we see on the right-hand side of the screen right now, in fact, on my right-hand side, is of that bus arriving at the airport, Guwahati airport. The rebels are all about to get off that bus, and they will be boarding a flight. It's a chartered flight, a SpiceJet flight to Goa. And on the other side, you see Uddhav Thackeray at pretty much the same time arriving for a crucial cabinet meeting. That Supreme Court hearing about to take place right now.